You know, when I was young, it was rude to ask a woman her age. But now in 2024, it's rude to ask a woman if she's a woman. Hey, my name is Mr. X. Welcome to the Extreme Channel. We are giving away $1,000 statues to you guys. If you want to know how to win one, stay tuned for later in the video. Welcome to another statue review. Today we are looking at Prime 1 Studios 1/3 scale Vampirella. So Vampirella is a comic-based character based off of Dynamite Comics, which in all transparency, I've never read. But I like vampires and I like women. So it worked really well, because I'm assuming she's a woman. They haven't really, come forth and identified her as one. However, her cleavage and long hair and seductive feminine looks kind of insinuate that. This statue also insinuates that she is a vampire, an immortal, a bloodsucker. So the question to her of how old she is or her age might be really offensive because she's probably hundreds of years old. Anyway, Vampirella is kind of your counterpart for Dracula, again based off Dynamite Comics. There's been a few B-rated movies back in the 80s or 90s that I've never seen, and there's been a few different statues based off her as well. Now, I was really against this. Buying this almost makes me feel like I'm a hypocrite because I always tout I don't like sexualized statues. I don't understand some of the jollies that some men get off when they buy sexualized statues and get really excited. It's polystone. It's statue. It's not a real person. It's not skin. It has a sculpted chest and really nice anatomy, but it's sculpted. It's not real. In case you didn't know. Anyway, super excited to get this in because it is absolutely amazing. I bought this because it looked like a work of art based off Stanley Art Germ's art, which you can see on the comic cover there. And she did not disappoint despite a few issues we're going to talk about with the statue. Most of them are design and shipping issues, but we're going to review the paint, the sculpt, the concept. And you'll have to forgive some of my ignorance because I don't know a lot about the character. I may get some things wrong. I mean, obviously she's a vampire. Obviously she likes bats and snakes and skulls and blood. Who doesn't, right? So Vampirella has actually been around since the late 60s, and as I said, she's really kind of that whole Dracula vibe. Dracula actually appears in a lot of her comics, including some classic vampire characters like Van Helsing, and she pretty much has the normal powers that most vampires do. Super strength, she doesn't age, and as long as she has her heart and her head intact, she will pretty much be ageless and live forever. She can, I believe she can shapeshift, I don't know. Google it if you want to know more. But for now, we're just going to focus on this beautiful statue. And the more I look at it, the more I'm impressed, the more I'm really excited I bought it. One of the reasons I bought it is because I have kind of this mini horror section in 1/3 scale. And she's going to go with some other vampires in the 1/3 scale. If you want to know what that looks like, check out the Extreme Channel social media, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. The link for those is in the description below. Enough of that. More of this. Let's start talking about it with the concept, which I think is really incredible with this. One might almost consider this a throne statue, and I own about 20 throne statues, but they're all in the 1/4 scale, so smaller than 1/3 scale. She wouldn't fit in there, but I like a lot of what they did. First thing I don't like, I'll tell you, is this nameplate. I think nameplates are stupid. I don't understand the purpose behind them, but I'm very thankful that this nameplate is a proximity piece. So after this review, this is going to go straight back in the box. If you don't know who this is, why do you care? But let's look at the rest of it. So you have a semi-museum style base on the bottom, a little bit of patterns on it, which is nice, and then a concrete floor. And on top of that concrete floor, which assumably might be her castle, you have evil stuff, snakes and skulls, and tons of them, and they're writhing around everywhere, in and out, and I think that is a pretty cool setup for Vampirella. And then laying on half the chair is almost this cape. So why would you want to wear that? Let's sexualize the statue even more. But the cape is kind of falling off. She's sitting on part of it. And her throne is kind of this ornate, older chair. It has some intricate designs on it. Some skulls and bats and her symbol, which we also saw on the base. And she's sitting there in a very seductive pose. Now, all the vampire movies I've ever seen that have women, for the most part, especially if they're the main vampire, they're very seductive. That's how they get their prey, which doesn't make sense because if they're vampires, they have immense power. But she's sitting there very seductive. You have a spilled goblet of blood. You have a ton of bats in the background just flying all over. They look like they're actually alive and in motion. and her flowing hair kind of follows that. And as you move up closer, just one of the biggest reasons I bought this is the prototype had one of the most beautiful female portraits I've ever seen, and I still think that's the same, although it doesn't live up to prototype quality. Like I said, her hair going everywhere, ornate chair, very, very cool, very seductive, a little bit of blood on her lip. I think the concept is fantastic. As I said, it's kind of based off of the art. You can actually see the cover that it's based off of right there. Only shows her waist up, but it still gives you a good idea. So I think the concept is a 4 out of 5. One could argue easily a 5 out of 5. I could definitely be swayed for that. As I said, the design was not without its issues, and you knew that because when you looked at the instructions, it had all these disclaimers: this may break, this may break, this may break. Well, unfortunately, mine broke before I even opened it. Check it out. I was surprised how big this box was. It was pretty heavy as well. I'm sure there was a great art box. This was just the top of it. There were 2 different layers. This was the bottom layer. Everything was intact. The top layer is where I had the breakage. It was actually on the throne itself and the cape. So let's zoom in a little closer. It came unfortunately broken like that. It's not a clean break. There were some missing pieces, but I did glue it back together. We'll talk more about that. It doesn't look the best, but it's at least behind her. So thankfully, it was a clean break. I was able to glue it. You can still tell it's there. It is what it is. I got this from the amazing Todd Father at Spec Fiction. So he's filing a claim with the shipping company. And I even told him, hold on to the money. You know, I'm going to buy more from you. I always buy from them. They're a fantastic person to buy from. Check out the link in the description below where you can buy statues. Use the code EXTREME20 to get some off your next purchase. So 1/3 scale. Very wide base, 21 inches. The depth on it is 13. The bats may extend that a little bit, but not much. But obviously, because she's sitting down, you have a height of about 22 inches. Again, you can check out Prime One Studios website for exact dimensions, but that should give you a ballpark. There are no switch out options on this statue. What you see is what you get. Now, you may have noticed I had trouble during assembly. The neck would not come in. The problem was the hair was actually hitting the back of the chair and the back of her, and the hair is now scraped up on the inside. I actually had to take a hairdryer to it for quite a while to actually bend the key where her neck is, and it softened up the hair a decent amount, and it was able to finally slide in. However, no matter what I did, it still left this tiny, tiny gap. Now, you probably wouldn't know this gap is there if you didn't know the head was a separate piece and you didn't know I had the issues with it. But I still think that that is a miss with Prime One Studio. So regarding the design, you know, there's no switch outs. I don't think there needs to be. The bats were a little bit of a pain, but it's smart how they did them and they're staying in well. So I think the design, let's assume mine didn't come broken, would be a 4 out of 5. They made it work. Tiny little gap, only issue, and that's probably just specific to my statue. Prime One Studio is a huge statue manufacturer when it comes to these 1/3 scale. That's who made it. I bought it from Spec Fiction. And I always say this, they rarely miss on paint and sculpt. They do an amazing job. I always say this too, this is not an exception. Here's some close-up video to prove me right. Well, I hate the concept of nameplates. They did a nice job with this. I love kind of the comic-y vibe that it gives off, despite this is a very realistic take on Vampirella. You know, this is one of the best realistic covers, really lifelike. So they did do a nice job on this. I just don't care for the concept with the classic Vampirella logo, some of the reds in there. Like I said, I think it's the paint mixing with the white that really gives it that comic-y vibe. But on to Mrs. Rella. Base, very pristine. Like I said, I usually don't like a museum style border, but I think they did nice with almost like the rivets on the outside, the Vampirella logo. It's kind of this burgundy brown that meshes really nice with the stone floor and then the ornate chair we're gonna look at. But I think they did a really nice job with the stone floor as well, not only the sculpt, but the paint. Skulls look fantastic in my opinion. You have a few variations on the color. Some are cracked in different places. And some of it is the paint and some of it's the light. But what's really cool is the scaly snakes that are going in and out through some of these. Really nice job on those snakes. And they're all over. Some of them were already on the base. You had to put at least one on there. Really impressed. The chair looks fantastic. One thing they didn't do, which I'm okay with, is this like mahogany wood type feel over here. It's a little too shiny for me. I think it works well with the statue, but it doesn't look like real wood, where we've seen so many statues out there that have wood floors or a tree that look really nice. But then there's these ornate designs in here. There's a skull and some other graphic symbols. So it does look really nice. The cushion on her chair looks like real cushion. And again, there's kind of this gloss all over it, which it flows well and works with the statue. There's more of death symbols of Mrs. Rella. Her cape or cloak, or it could be a blanket for all I know, looks fantastic. A lot of texture on it, has the gold lining on the outside. I like the deep red they used. It's a contrast of the reddish color on the cushion, and then also her costume we're gonna look at. The bats are interesting as well. So they did, they're almost translucent. I like the fact that it's different and each bat is different. The darker ones are kind of near her hair, and then as they move away, they get lighter. So there was a lot of intentionality and direction to that. That was smart. Her hair looks great, flowing all over the place. You can see the individual strands. It's globbed together in a few places. But then as you brown tips, so obviously she dyes her hair apparently. Huge head of hair though. That's got to be a pain in the ass to manage. There's almost some blue in there. If you see that through the light, I just noticed that. And I like the strands in front of her face. So the strands I have going over her finger, that's how they recommend it. You don't have to do it that way, but I think it looks good either way. She has these leather style boots. Again, have a little bit of texture on them, make it, you know, have this genuine leather feel to them, even though they're painted polystone. There's the spilled blood, looks great as well. That's that, and then the blood on her lips we're gonna look at are the only blood on this actual statue. I think they did a really nice job with the skin. You can actually see some pores, some fantastic anatomy, really delicate, petite, beautiful hands. They overemphasized her chest, but again, that's kind of copying off the comic art. Her symbol on her singlet, this is kind of like a wrestling singlet almost that she's wearing, has different shades of red in it and kind of stretched out. You can even see some of the folds up here where it meets at the collar. Couldn't wear that in public today. Well, you could. You can do anything in public. I love the shade of the skin. I think it's perfect. It's not too pale, but it's obviously she doesn't get that much sun. And then going in for the portrait, like I said, it's not as good as the prototype. I don't like the fact that it looks like eyes for decals for eyes. I think that's a little bit of a miss. Her lips look fantastic. The little bit of blood flowing down. The prototype definitely had a better portrait, but this is still one of your better female portraits. Yeah, so I'm a fan of both the paint and sculpt. A few things I would have done differently, but while they're not perfect, I think they're going to get pretty high grades. paint. I think it's a 5 out of 5. I almost said 4, but I definitely think it's a 5 out of 5. I can't think of anything I would actually improve. Sculpt equally as impressive. While the portrait did lose a little bit from the prototype, I also give that a 5 out of 5 as well. All right, value is the next category we talk about. This is a tough one. So she was 1,600 bones. 1,600 US dollars. They made 700 of her. 500 were the bonus, which came with that stupid nameplate that's not needed, so you don't need the bonus. Then they had 200 of the non-bonus, which didn't have the nameplate, so 700 total. You know, it's kind of a B-rated character, and it's sold out to my knowledge, so that says something. And again, I think a lot of people bought it for the same reason I did. I think a lot of people bought it because they're perverts, but I think she's highly sought after. I even had some people hit me up, hey, are you going to sell this once it comes in? No, I'm not. So even at that high price tag, based off of those factors, I'm going to say the value is a 4 out of 5. I could probably flip her for a profit if she didn't arrive broken. So I think that for once, it's nice to have a statue that instantly has a little bit of equity in it, which hasn't been the case for about a year or so. Does she have the X factor? Is she a 5 out of 5? I wouldn't give her a 5 out of 5. She's not one of my most impressive statues, but I'm very happy with her. Definitely above average. I think she's a 4 out of 5 overall. I think she's going to look great next to the other vampires. And what's interesting is I have a video coming out specifically about vampires because of her. So make sure you've not only liked this video, but you sub to the channel and hit the bell notification to stay tuned for that. What do you guys think of her? Did she disappoint from the prototype? Is she a cool statue? Are you a pervert? Throw that down in the comments below. And if it's the latter, also get some help. As we try to grow this channel, we like to reward you guys for watching and subscribing. So because of that, every 5,000 milestone when it comes to subscribers, we give away a couple $1,000s worth of statues. We've actually given away over 20 statues. To win one was easy. First, you gotta be subscribed to the channel. You'll get bell notifications when videos drop. Each video that drops, you wanna make a comment on those videos. We pick a random video, we give away statues based on a comment. You can say whatever you want. The more videos you comment on, the higher your chances are to win. Thank you so much to Spec Fiction. You guys rock. Again, I highly recommend you check them out. This rocks. Prime One rocks. You rock. She rocks. I rock. Take care.